around measuring performance. And the whole question around job description. I think in that way, we'll be able to address the gap that has been identified. Situation where volunteers come here and they're not sure what they need to do.
As an intermediary organization, as somebody who facilitates, a volunteer center facilitates best practice in volunteering to our member organizations, we offer volunteer management training courses that helps prepare organizations to receive volunteers. It helps them to develop task descriptions, helps them to develop those systems that makes it essential not only for international volunteers but also for local volunteers. Because in order for us to make an impact at the developmental level, we need to have systems and structures in place. And that is often the gap. We often think that volunteering, volunteers come in and everything's hunky-dory, and there's all sorts of issues at play in organizations that we don't take into account.
Because I just want to understand the process. Is it supply driven or is it demand driven? If it's demand driven, to align this according to the national priorities of the hosting country. In this country, one of our priorities is skills development. And therefore, I assume that you might actually need to get people who are very well skilled as volunteers, not only people who do charity work.
Previously, the sending organization would do the orientation without the hosting organization. And that created extensive problems for the hosting organization because these volunteers came in with certain expectations which the hosting organization could not meet. Subsequent to that, we've had lengthy interactions where we have now joint planning sessions, joint orientation sessions, joint mentoring sessions, and the point that was raised earlier on about the mentorship program was that we had to find suitable mentors for each of those volunteers that are coming into the country. The challenge is still the cultural side of things, in that the mentors are not exposed to European culture. They've heard of the country, but they don't know what the culture is all about. And that's where we're finding a bit of a challenge, in that we would like to match the young people with the right mentors, but the cultural side of things is always going to be a challenge.
Where in the community, if there is a volunteer placed there, and then when this volunteer leaves, when you are measuring the impact, you discover that when the community is not aware of this concept of volunteering, usually it becomes very difficult for a volunteer who comes, another volunteer who comes to really be welcomed by the community, because the community is not ready. They don't know exactly what this volunteer is coming to do in that area. So there is need that the community is well aware, so that whoever comes in that community, the community are able to manage that person. So my training that I was doing with the community, we want to place new volunteers in the community that we have never worked with, So in order for us to make sure that the volunteers will be safe and will be welcome in that community, I went to that community to conduct a training how to manage volunteers in the area, and also to find out the needs of the community and what kind of skills they would want to get from the volunteer when that volunteer is placed in that area. So in doing that, we also take advantage to make sure that we convince the local authorities in that area, so that they are aware of the project, and to align our objective with their expectations. I think what is more cardinal for organization is also to try to develop the volunteer manual, so that guides the organizations in their operations and how to manage volunteers. For example, when the sending organizations are doing orientation, the information that they give out to these volunteers who come to Africa, or the volunteers going to Europe, should be at least the same format. The information shouldn't differ so much, because if they give orientation and the information that the volunteers come with differ with what they find on the ground, it creates a lot of conflict and discomfort among the volunteers and the receiving. So it's important to align the orientation to make sure that you send the information to the sending organization about the community, about your country, so that whatever is given to these volunteers is not below what they are going to expect.
The reality is international volunteering right now in Africa is supply driven. It is not demand driven. The motivation of the European countries that is causing that supply to be driven. Okay. It is up to the receiving countries to get their act together and make the most of that experience and impact on the supply. Okay. Because otherwise we cannot make demand. Where is our volunteer infrastructure in this country? It does not exist. And I have to turn to the Department of Social Development, Muzi. This is right in your court. Okay? We have a national youth service. It has not made a widespread volunteer system work successfully. We've got to fix this thing, and we've got to fix it fast, because we are missing opportunities here. People are banging at the door to come and help. Okay. And I think we've seen some of the rich opportunities that are at our disposal. Let's do something to actually make that work. The expertise is in this room, both international players, Skillshare, AFS, VSO, you name them, and local expertise, Volunteer Center, Love Life, etc. I mean, there's amazing stuff happening here. Something from the European Voluntary Service as a regional initiative in our region. Let us send Nontokozo to Mozambique. She learned to speak Portuguese. And imagine what a difference it would make to her life. Even if she went for a month, or 6 months, or a year. Let us bring the Tanzanian to Angola. Let us send the person, Kagiso, from Botswana, into Evans's projects in Zambia. What will that do for regional stability and growth and mutual understanding? It will do a fortune, because the Europeans really are organized. And this is not only a big industry, but it is one with great potential. So thank you all for coming, and please join us for lunch. And Patrick, the Ubuntu team is continuing its work after lunch, but you'll have to return to the NYDA. And we'll be in touch longer term. So thank you, and let's just have discussions over lunch about how we can work together to take this forward.